Paul. So thank you. So first of all, any quick reflections on my very short summation?
No, I think, as you said, it was pretty simple. I wrote it more complex, but at the end, in a nutshell, that's what you said. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's good that you wrote it in a complex way. I can't write it in a complex way. I just want to get the outline of the story. It's good to have.
Okay.
Yeah. So, next question, Franco. Where have you gotten stuck in this work?
Stuck in a sense where I had the biggest challenge, or what do you mean with stuck?
Let's go with biggest challenge and see what comes up there.
Well, as we discussed last time, the biggest challenge was to buy the group of people in, to let them perceive, understand that it's our project, it's not my project, and that if we really co-research, collaborate, it will in all sense be a win-win situation for them, for the company, for the future of the company, for the region. As I mentioned in last interview in my paper, first time that Intercos China would launch a really innovative product. So the challenge was really to convince the people that if we collaborate together, if each of us contributes to that project, finally we're going to make it happen, which is the lipstick. But on top of that, they would finally, hopefully, they will finally also perceive that by themselves they could change things, independently how hopeless, within brackets at the beginning, they might look like, in a way that Mr. Ferrari is not willing to blah, blah, blah. So my point was, how do I get those people convinced that it's really a common project, and if we contribute together, yes, we're going to have as a result a sustainable lipstick, but it's far more. It's achieving together a goal that at the beginning was not really existing because it was my project, because it was a top-down decision of the owner of the company. So this was my biggest challenge, right? At the beginning, I thought, sorry?
So let me speak that back to you.
Please, yes.
So when we started this interview, and I said, are you a change maker? You said, yes, it's looking for win-win solutions so that the other can begin to see the potential really for transformation. When I ask you where'd you get stuck, it sounds like you were coming in with this vision of what could happen, and they just didn't get it. So I'm thinking the emotion there was frustration. You're trying to encourage them to see what you can see, but they can't see it and they don't trust you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think last time I said it, later in that process, when in my perception they started trusting me, was one statement: we thought you're going to make another project and then we're going to get a PowerPoint presentation, that's it. So I think that they had different experience in the past where they were participating either in a survey or in a concrete process, whatever, and project, but finally they were not really involved and it never became theirs, and they never really felt that it would be in value added for them or for the company. It was somebody external that as a consultant has been paid, and never feedback to put their energy, their resources, their knowledge, but nothing came out of it. And I think that it was their expectation or their experience that they somehow put into that project when they met Franco, right? Said, okay, it's another one that is coming here from a top-down decision. We must participate, right? The owner wants that, so we have to do it. But we don't believe in that, and we don't trust that guy, right? So this was the beginning, but I didn't perceive that at the beginning. For me, at the beginning, it was, okay, I have a task. I have as I said to you last time, I need to write an action research paper. I had pretty clear from a technical point of view and methodology how I'm going to make that sustainable lipstick, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was for me more how should I say, a typical project management, right? So I thought I guide them through, get the information I need, and then that's it. And I start perceiving after the interviews and the pre-workshop that I will never achieve a sustainable, valuable result if I could not convert that mistrust into trust, and if I could not convince them that finally their investment in terms of resources, but also their human capital that they're putting in, would lead to something that the company really going to use, and it's going to be something that, maybe it's the wrong words, but going to upgrade China within the Intercos group, because they make a sustainable new innovation project. And this was a completely underestimation from my side, because I thought it's a project, right? I did a lot of those projects, so it was a project, and it was really an underestimation from my side, and this was the biggest challenge then. First of all, as you said, and I'm not sure if I should say in this way, but I thought, okay, 6 months and I'm going to be through my second phase, right? And at a certain point of time, I realized, okay, I would like to finish that phase 2, but I would like to finish that phase 2 and bring a contribution to all the stakeholders you mentioned before that are investing their time, their resources, and it should be valuable for the company at the end of the day, but for those people that are trusting me, right? So this was something that changed my approach from running through a process, which is a project management milestone, stage gates, okay, let's do ABC, to, okay, let me understand what drives you, what concerns you, without solving really their problem, but understanding and trying to convert that understanding, that emotion into a transformation for the whole team, right? Not for a particular individual person, which I believe that in succeeding would really be a transformation. Yes, for the group, yes, for the project I'm working on, but finally, I believe for each individual person, for their future, because I believe that together we're going to move up a step, right? If we are here and each individual person contributes a piece to that, then we all together will go up a step, right? So at least that's what I thought, and that's what I'm trying to do. So the lipstick is still a goal, but it's not the goal as it was at the beginning. I'm not sure if I was clear.
No, you're very clear. You're very clear, and the issue, as I understand it, you're using a lot of metaphors of underestimating. What are you saying? Underestimating, upgrading, movement. It's what you're describing is really, it's a developmental leap from kind of purely technical to technical plus understanding, which, by the way, is a learning orientation. I think that's why you were pulling in Peter's work and action research, the language of double loop learning, second order learning. That's maybe some language for what's happening here. So, and you're also going through that process yourself, because in this phase 2, I say to you, do a technical project, fine, pass the class. It won't be very good, but you can pass, you're done. Versus you learn as much as you possibly can, means for you yourself to also step back along with these people in China. And there's something coming together. So imagine, and maybe Henry is a good example, or a colleague of yours, or somebody you don't quite know, who does the work that you do in China. They're coming in to a next factory. It's not Intercos, it's a different place. What's the advice? What's the heart of the matter you want to advise them about so that they can start more into the real work? What should they do?
Being compared to myself at the beginning of this project, more open-minded, being more in the role of listening. At the beginning, I was more talking and explaining and advising, and not listening to the individual co-researchers. And last but not least, I would spend even more time beforehand, before I would redo the interviews. I think that starting with the interview was not the best approach that I could do, because I didn't know the people well enough. So the answers that I got were okay, were in some cases political correct. And I believe that if I would have done this questionnaire after I had the individual meetings with them and an exchange with them, I believe that I would have achieved deeper insights with that interview. So at the beginning, the interview was okay, right? I got the insights, but I think I would have gained more insights when we would have a better trust relation among each other. So that's what I would recommend. Listening was definitely one thing that at the beginning I didn't do, because it was a technical project for me, as I said before. So it was more tuck, 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 I have my milestones, let's do it, right? And I wouldn't do that again.
So I totally get it. Listening, creating trust, all those things, it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do. So when you tell somebody to listen, what do you really mean? Most people don't listen at all.
Yeah, I don't know, but I take me as an example, right? I took the questionnaire, I asked my questions, and the people answered. So when I had the impression that I didn't understand exactly what the answer was, so I asked the second question, so I just followed up with them, and then I went to the next question, right? So it means that I was just working on the questionnaire. Today, when we're sitting together in some meetings, I had one today, right? Um, Obviously, I have a couple of questions that I would like to have as an outcome, the end of that meeting. But what I'm doing is I'm asking more. How do you feel? What are you doing? How did you work on the project? Are you having some challenges, or would you recommend me to approach it differently? So I'm getting the answers that I need, not with one question, but in a different, I wouldn't say a small talk, but it's more a open discussion rather than a strict guideline on 10 questions, right? So, and you're right, it's not easy with trust, but I believe that this is building trust, right? When I ask them, and one in particular, I believe in the Chinese culture, when I'm asking them, what do you suggest that I could do differently, right? It's a big step for them, right? So, and I'm realizing that they're giving me advices, right? So, and this is for me fundamental, and finally, the evidence that there is a trust, okay? Because they're giving me advice. They're saying, hey, Franco, have you thought about this? Or normally in China, we would approach that in this way, right? And this is for me that exchange that I didn't have at the beginning, and it was my fault, right? Because I was going through a process, right, of question and answer, milestones. Okay, give me some insights, give me some input. I'm going to make a bit of research outside the company, so let's find a couple of material to make a sustainable lipstick, and then I make my case, right? And I think that I lost good insights at the beginning, but more than that, it was not. I felt it was not really through. It was not really coming from their heart, right? So now, as I said before, they tell me, they talk with me about their families, okay? When I talk to colleagues of mine, they say, well, they talk with you about their families. It's not that I'm going out with them having a drink, or no, it's just that we came to a situation where we have a small talk talking about the project, but they are giving more from their side. And I'm doing the same, right? So we shared my vacation, we shared South Africa. So it become to a situation that, yes, the project is important. I'm getting what I need in terms of my research topic. I think that we're going to get a great result for the lipstick, but it's not, how do you say, it's not a forced work that we are doing. It's not, you have to do it. It's more, yes, I would like to contribute as much as possible. And they start contributing in a way that they are very, very open to me and give me hints. And this is what we discussed last time for me, that trust that I'm perceiving from them.
It sounds a little bit like you're able to operate as a more whole human being. You're able to share a little bit with them about your vacation. They share a little bit with you, but you also get exactly what you need and better, because they're able to give you some advice. And it's very subtle. And because of the power dynamics, they wouldn't have been able to say it early on. Do you have one example? Is there any example that comes to mind of a piece of advice or input that changed things?
Yeah, well, the one is that we had an action plan for finding suppliers for the packaging, okay? And what I did is I thought I would help them if I come with a pre-selected supplier list, okay? And so what I did is I shared that list with them, and I said, please choose 3 among those, I don't remember, 15, which I have analyzed, okay? So, and 2 of them said, okay, we can do this, but wouldn't you think that if we would tell you what we think about those 15 suppliers and why they are not appropriate for China, they might be good for Europe, right? And why we would suggest you to choose ABC. So, and then I found myself again in that step which I had originally, right? Saying, okay, I thought I would help them in making a pre-selection, and they would have preferred to work together on selecting those suppliers, right? And so it was the one thing that they did. The second thing, an example, is working on the budget. Intercos is working for budget 2019 cost budget, and obviously this is a part of for sustainability, right? So I got the task in just listing down what the cost is going to be. So and I talked to them, and I made a couple of assumptions, right, as managers do in a project management. And they felt that I should have involved them. They felt that it should have been more a collaborative work, saying, okay, we know headquarters needs that, but why not sitting together and saying, okay, what do you think about the costs? What is your way of doing, and how would we achieve that? So those 2 examples where I thought I would prepare the work and let them select within a frame. Their expectation was, we would have loved that we would create the frame together and then select together. So there's 2 examples that I believe at the beginning, they would never have told me this, right? They would have selected the 3 suppliers, and right or wrong, they would have given me their answer, potentially their best answer out of those 15 pre-selected suppliers. But at the end, the conclusion was none of those 15 suppliers are part of the supplier base now, and they were right. Okay, so there were reasons, specific reasons why we should choose suppliers that they have recommended. Okay, so this were 2 examples.
They're nice examples. How did you find out they didn't like what you had done?
They told me.
So they is who? Ava Wong?
No. People. Well, the one was the guy from the production Tiger.
Okay.
The head of and the other, the lady Doris, which is the lady for HR responsible.
So at some point, as I understand, at some point in this process, they said, you know what, Franco, this whole process doesn't work. It would have been better if. And what? How did you respond?
Sorry.
And how did?
Well, yes, they said that. Not exactly. So what they said is, Franco, this is one way of doing it. Because I said, would you do that? That's what I thought, right? And then I said, would you recommend to do it in a different way?
Nice.
And I think that was the right answer, because then they say, yes, so it's one way to do it, but the other way is, right? And then I choose the other way because I thought, okay, if I ask them to feedback me, right, and to make a suggestion, and the suggestion is good and valuable, then I have to take this suggestion, why I'm asking, right? And so that was, so I came and I said that's what I would like to do. Any suggestion to do it differently? And then they say, yes, so this is one way, but the other way is that we elaborate together. And that's what we did.
Beautiful example. The Franco who said to them, this is one way to do it, would you suggest me another way? Is this a different Franco from the Franco who started the project?
Well, I guess yes. Yes, definitely. Different in the way that And that's what I meant also before when you asked me, what do you mean with listening, right? That's a part of the listening, right? So not just asking a question to be polite and political correct and then pushing my way through, asking a question and being sensible enough to and open enough to accept and take their feedback, their proposal, their suggestion, and work. I'm convinced that it was the better way. So I didn't take their proposal because I thought that I need to do it to do them a favor. I did it because I felt, yes, they were right. Huh? So and that's what I meant before with listening and being more open-minded. Is it different from the Franco who started the project? Yes, because I think that 3 months ago, I wouldn't even ask if they would make a suggestion to approach it differently. I would have said, so those are the 15s. The 15 supplier, please choose tree. Okay, the tree, tack, and I would have taken the tree and I would have moved to the next step because it was my process, right? So I think, yes, that's a big difference for me at least, okay? For other people, it might be normal, but for me, it's a big step. Might sound stupid, but it's a big step because it's not a question of time, right? But it's a question of being convinced that my solution is the right one because I prepared my solution, right? And now my point is, okay, I had a solution in mind. I have 11 people, co-researchers, peers, you name it, working with me. So it's a teamwork. I need to take their feedback and contribution and work with that and make and use the best out of this contribution and feedback. And a couple of months ago, I would have said, it's a project I need to deliver and I need to make a case out of it. So give me 3 out of the 15.
I also hear, at least I think I hear, there's a subtle way of engaging with their culture, which is you're not asking to get into some awkward situation where they're going to tell you you're wrong and you're just saying, is there another way? I mean, it's very simple, it's very subtle. I think it's very powerful because then you're not wrong, but here's another way. It's like, oh, it's just another way. Nobody's wrong here, but it's like, oh, it's a better way because, and so it's not an either or. It's not really a new Franco. It's a more whole Franco in a way, right? It's you're still preparing. You still have this list of 15. It's just it turns out not to be the best. It could have been. It might have been a good list, right? We don't know that, and so you're opening up more territory here. Okie doke. Now, as you think about writing up one insight, because a paper can only be about one insight, what strikes you as the most interesting key insight in this work?
The transformation of all of us into a real teamwork. So we were not a team at the beginning, okay? And I think that transformation, that process, step by step over Eva, the lady from HR, Doris, Tiger, so that really transformation into a real teamwork, that's for me, that's the key.
So then your paper becomes the description of a process for a consultant who enters a system naturally not having a team. What does it take really, truly, to create a team?
Okay.
Does that feel right?
Yeah.
That feels right?
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah. In creating a team, yeah, it's perhaps I need to think about it, but creating a team that culturally, there's potentially something that I was thinking on. How can I combine that also with a cultural difference?
Yep.
Because I think that one thing that I perceived and lived through is I needed to understand who are those people, not in terms of function. I was prepared on who is doing what in intercourse and whatever, but it came down that it was more, and the more I understood about the Chinese culture, I think that but that might be also be a part of that process to become a team. It could be that I could work on that in that context, but it was also this learning and process that we had was that I believe that they realized that I cared about who they are, right? You said before more human, and I think that this was one of the points, because at a certain stage I stepped back and I was really trying to understand how should I as a consultant, as a researcher, behave in a completely different culture. And you know that much better than I do. China is a different world, right? Asia is a different world compared to Europe, and I think to the management style of Central European people is also completely different, and so I needed to understand that cultural difference, and the difference in management style, and there is a difference, right? So, but this might be that I can include that in. There was not a team in creating a team. I had a feedback to Ferrari, if I can just add this, okay? I had a feedback to Ferrari, telling him that, yeah, well, he was expecting that I was delivering a bit. I was delivering, right? Because he has this client behind. Okay, he's driven by clients, right?
Sure.
Markets, clients, business driven. And when I told him that I need more time because I need to understand the cultural differences, the markets, I need more time, right? He had a challenge to not to accept it, because I said that I need the time and I need the time, but it was for him the way to say why you cannot push it through, right? Basically, you need some hard facts. And I said that if I want to have real deep insight, and if you would like to have a sustainable change in your organization in China, and if you seriously would like to make a rollout after that pilot project that I'm doing here, I do believe that we need to invest in that time. And this is also part of the cake that I would say changed me personally, because in a sense, a couple of months ago, I would have done the same as he requested, pushing it through, right? Saying, okay, I need the hard facts, let's do it, and then I write the case, and in best case, they're going to sell it to Sephora, right? So this is, I'm not sure if it's enough or if this is the right focus in creating a team, or if it's more in really transforming that team in a group of researchers that now takes their project as their project. I told you at the beginning a couple of weeks ago that they felt it's mine, right? It's Franco, and in base case it was a Dario Ferrari Intercos project. Today, it's their project, and this is for me that real transformation where I feel somehow proud to say we succeeded together in making a Franco process project into a common project that is now Intercos China. And this is for me more than creating a team. It's somehow, in building trust. Yes, it's a part of team, no question. But it's for me it's even more. And I cannot phrase it at the moment, but it's more than just within brackets creating a team.
Yeah. I get that, and I think we're going to have to wait and see what exactly is the language you want to use. Team is not quite right, but so here's what I'm hearing that could be very interesting. Let's just use the metaphor of team for now, believing that something better will arise. You entered this playing field sent with the rules of the game as we play it in Ferrari world, in Italy perhaps, but in Ferrari world or in regular management world. You enter into a culture that is profoundly proud, and they're just not quite sure how to relate to you. And they don't want to be, so the team per se is at the very least not well exercised in the current game. You, however, are both team manager, but you're now also coach, and you're going to have to show them how to play. So you're going to have to get on the field. I'm thinking soccer. I know nothing about this. You get on the field. Look, this is how you do it. But the coach and then the manager, you're kind of thinking to yourself, the very rules themselves, we're going to have to look at. So Chinese soccer may look a little different from Italian soccer. And so your story really is of creating Chinese soccer and then having to argue back to Ferrari soccer world that this is how we're going to play it in China. Because if you continue to play Italian soccer in China, people are going to break their legs. They're not going to play properly. They're not going to care. And so your paper is very interesting to people who go from Europe or probably North America into the Chinese context to help them understand what they're walking into. It's not a completely different world, because it's not. But it's a world in which you're going to have to look at the rules of the game, which is very, very hard because almost nobody knows the rules. We just play. We don't know the rules. So you were forced, when you say my mind opened, upgrading, I think I'm hearing you say, I began to see the rules that I was playing by and which ones were good and which ones were not so good. And I invited the Ava Wongs, the Tigers, the Dorises to tell me, how can we play a better game? And here's the steps that were most useful in that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's a very good explanation, because there were those people, including which I haven't mentioned before, Xiaoping.
Oh, right.
That she helps a lot. In the way she gives a lot of advices, also cultural wise, right? So, and therefore I think it's pretty good, the example that you gave with, it's a soccer game, right? We play it on the same field, but the rules are different, right? And if we force the China soccer team in playing within the rules of Europe or Italian or Intercos, then it might hurt them. And if it hurts them, then they won't play anymore, right? So let's adapt the soccer game to the national standards or rules. I like that, the way you described it. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
And I don't know if this metaphor will remain, but that's the basic idea. There's also something about being humbled, I think. Humbled in a good way, not in a shameful way, but really beginning to see, hey, you know what? These guys have better answers sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely, I agree. Yeah, and they do.
And they do.
But that's for me part of that process and project, and part of that success, that they are now sharing this knowledge, right? And that's what it is. Absolutely.
So here's my invitation. I think you're ready to start drafting a paper. Okay. I think my hunch is one way to start it is to start with an opening vignette. It doesn't have to be exactly true, but capturing the Franco who's coming in with the answer. This is what we're going to do. This is the timeline. This is the project. And your Chinese colleagues are like, oh, okay. So there's virtually no dialogue. It's just, yeah. And then we also need some data. And I think that the packaging story is a very powerful one. The Eva Wong story is a very powerful one. And then we do it together, it's like these 3 moments.
Okay.
And you might find that there's others, but we can't have too much detail. So we just want to hear the narrative. That might be a first way to block your paper. And then inside of that, you're telling us basically, here's the methods: interview, coding, a lot of coding, theming, and fundamentally it's a story of transforming the rules of the game in such a way that Italian rules and Chinese rules can come together. And concretely, this is what we end up with. So to Ferrari's question, where are you with the actual lipstick? Like facts on the ground or what? So that's it. It's difficult to write a paper the first time. I've never seen anybody do it. I don't expect you to do it. It usually takes 3 times with major revisions. And I spend my day as an editor of a journal. So even when I get papers in, it's still another 3 revisions. So revision is just the norm. And at some point we just end it, because you're not here, I don't think, to publish a paper per se. You're here to clarify for yourself what's the process you went through, so that you can hand it to somebody else. So it needs to be that level of clarity, but also that level of novelty, because everybody knows you're supposed to listen to your client. That's like rule number 1. How do you listen to your client? But just saying it doesn't help, right? So I think you have to show us, and these examples will show us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So is there any timing when I should hand it in? Or is it free? No? Okay, good.
It's free. Obviously, by setting your own deadlines, it might be helpful to you because you're so busy. It could
absolutely
get forgotten. I really admire the effort you've put in with coding, because I think that has been your listening. Your coding equals listening. I think that has trained you to listen. I really, really admire that. So I think some piece in there about that. I think fundamentally we're talking about learning orientation. You were bringing a learning orientation into this factory in China, which didn't have it. And that's a huge piece of difficult work. So it's beautiful, beautiful in terms of process. And we also want to know, is there a lipstick? You know, is there a real product?
Yeah.
So I think our audiences are Ferrari. They're your people in China, and they're me. And it could be that it's not all the same paper. You know, you'll decide. It might be easier. I don't know. I'm happy either way. Learning histories are often two papers, one for the people inside and then one for the rest of the world, because they can't deal with all the detail from inside.
Okay.
It's up to you. It's up to you. And then when we get close to the final version, then Alfredo will pop in as well and will help look at it so that it's landing for people who don't know all the inside details.
Okay. Great. So let's start.
Let's start. I will turn off the